We got it. We do record our sermons, just so you know. We don't record the other parts of the services because of copyright stuff. And then eventually they will get up on our website sometime in the next week. And they reside there. So, so if you ever are at a point where you miss a sermon or go like, what did she say? You're always welcome to go back and look at those sermons. So let's see. I have to get mine so I can see the text. And I am, okay, I'm not where I can see it on my screen. Yep. Catherine is filling in because Ben is in England right now. What an opportune time to be in England for work, but also around the transition of power there. So here is our reading this morning. It comes from the Gospel of Luke, the 15th chapter. All the tax collectors and sinners were gathering around Jesus to listen to him. The Pharisees and legal experts were grumbling, saying, "This man welcomes sinners and eats with them." Jesus told them this parable. Suppose someone among you had 100 sheep and lost one of them. Wouldn't he leave the other 99 in the wilderness and search for the lost one until he finds it? And then when he finds it, he's thrilled and places it on his shoulders. When he arrives home, he calls together his friends and neighbors, saying to them, "Celebrate with me, because I found my lost sheep." And in the same way, I tell you, there will be more joy in heaven over one sinner who changes both heart and life than over 99 righteous people who have no need to change their hearts and lives. Or what woman, if she owns 10 silver coins and loses one of them, won't light a lamp and sweep the house, searching her home carefully until she finds it? When she finds it, she calls together her friends and neighbors, saying, "Celebrate with me, because I've found my lost coin." In the same way, I tell you, joy breaks out in the presence of God's angels over one sinner who changes both heart and life. This is the reading this day for the people of God. I love that we get to start this academic year with these particular stories because they start with a celestial party. This is a picture from the James Webb Space Telescope, with which I have become particularly fond of looking at. This is some double helix something or other, but it's a star dying. And I thought, it's a rainbow. And is it an eye? Is it light? Is it energy? It's a celestial party. And that's where our story starts. How could we be in a better place than to start with a party? But before we get to the party, I want to talk about the two stories because they are a response to grumbling. You've never heard grumbling in your whole life, have you? Never, never, ever. I've heard it here every now and then. No, not really. But the scribes and Pharisees are grumbling. And now these are people who care deeply about religious faith. They want people to observe the laws. They want people to have faith-filled lives. They want to think of themselves as well as pretty darn close to perfect when it comes to doing those things. And they were grumbling because Jesus wasn't hanging around with them. He was hanging around with tax collectors and sinners. Now, tax collectors, you have to realize, were like the scum of the earth, right? Because they were in cahoots with Rome and they extorted people as well as collecting for Rome, which was the oppressor, right? So they were like not happy campers to have tax collectors and sinners. You know all about them. Well, at least I do. Perhaps the Pharisees thought themselves perfect, and therefore the Son of God should be hanging out with them. But he wasn't. So in typical Jesus fashion, to address the grumbling, Jesus tells a story. Stories that are somewhat familiar to us. Many of you have heard these stories of the lost sheep, have you not? Right? And it's so sweet, so sweet. The shepherd goes out, he gets the little sheep, he puts them on his shoulders, he brings them home. Everybody's happy. It's so sweet. I don't know, did any of you have that picture in your room? I'd have to share, Catherine, to share the next picture on the slide. This is the exact picture. I know exactly where my copy of this picture is. And not only do I have this picture still, it was my attendance chart, I think in 3rd grade in Sunday school. Yes, I am that girl. And on it, every week you came, you got to add a sheep. It was so sweet. I still have it. Larry, help me remember to go home when I go home. I know exactly what box it's in the basement. I just have to open up those little 2 ends and pull it right out. It's right there. Did anybody ever see a picture like this? Yeah, it's really familiar. It's so sweet. It's so kind. It's so wonderful. But Jesus never tells sweet and kind stories. He always tells stories that are a challenge. Here again, the words of Luke. Suppose someone among you had 100 sheep and lost one of them. Wouldn't he leave the other 99 in the wilderness and search for the lost one until he finds it? Have you ever done risk-benefit analysis in your life? Some of you do it for a living, right? Some of you do it, well, should I jump off the cliff with my friends or not? Risk-benefit analysis. You know what I'm talking about. So let's help this poor shepherd out. You have 99 sheep, all accounted for. Is it worth the risk to get the one and leave the 99? Now, you have to realize in the text, if you look in the many versions of the Bible, it will say that they were in the pasture. That's not the word in Greek. I looked it up. I had guidance to get there, mind you. But the word used in this particular passage, as well as every time the word shows up in Luke, other than this passage, it's wilderness. Right? The wilderness. And what's in the wilderness? Lions, tigers, and bears. Oh my. It's not a safe place, right? So you and I know, would you leave the 99 in the wilderness for the one? Risk-benefit analysis, the prudent answer is no, of course you wouldn't. But the shepherd does just that. The shepherd does just that. He risks everything for the one who is perhaps always heard going, I never listened to my parents. They're so old. Right? That one who's lost from his own volition or her own just simply wandering and following a butterfly. Lost and sought after with a passion that is unreasonable and compelling. When the sheep is found, there's a time of rejoicing with family and friends. Really? Really? Is that a prudent move? Risk-benefit analysis? You know, if you have a party because you brought that one back, does that not highlight your poor shepherding skills? How'd you lose one? Come on, you were good at the rest of it. How'd you lose the one? Do you really want to do that? Jesus, have a party because one sheep is found? Risk-benefit analysis, not worth the cost. So let's go to things that have cost, right? The next story is a woman with a lost coin. Now, sheep may have the ability to wander off, but a coin has no agency. It can't get up on the table and move for a better view unless there's a cat in the house. It just sits there where it's put, earned, saved, spent. It has no choice. It stays right where it's put. But it's not put where it was. So the woman goes in search for it. It can't have gone too far. You ever lost the thing that you know it can't have gone far? It doesn't have legs to wander off. Where the heck is it? When I grew up with a lot of Irish Catholic friends, and whenever we lost stuff in the summertime, which we were wont to do quite frequently, we always prayed to St. Anthony. St. Anthony, please come around. Something is lost and it has to be found. Oh, couldn't have gone far. I don't think she had St. Anthony yet at that point, so she turns everything upside down. She lights a lamp to look in the place of shadows to find the coin. And when she does, she rejoices with her friends and her family. Really? Might this need to find a coin point out her poor organizational skills? If she had just a little bit more together, she wouldn't have lost it. Or if she was a little bit better of a housekeeper, she wouldn't have lost it. Never heard those or thought those things, right? But Jesus says, let's have a party. because the coin is found. For Jesus, there is rejoicing whenever anything is lost and found. Our risk cost analysis is turned on its ear with these stories. The things we think are insignificant are worth searching for. Lost sheep, lost coins, and I would contend this story also connects to lost people, because in these stories, the shepherd and the woman are both God. The shepherd and the woman are both God. Now, again, for us, that's how it's always been, right? We see shepherds in the Christmas play. We think of Mary and maybe other women of the Bible, and we think, oh, this is perfect. But in the first century, to have God equated with a shepherd and a woman would have been unheard of. In the first century, the shepherd and women were second-class citizens at best. They were lowly, not powerful or influential, and far from perfect people that we think are needed to change everything. The stories are sweet and familiar as they are. They also challenge us and demand our hearts to be changed in the way we look at risk and the cost of seeking and being found. And being found. And they directly challenge the image of who God is and how God might show up in the world. And for that, I give thanks. Because it means that you and I are worth God seeking us out. Because I imagine that you have been lost a time or two. Lost in grief for a loved one who has departed from us through death or separation. Lost in grief for lives lost in a terrorist action and the subsequent wars that come, and that some reason that peace will surely come, and yet violence never begets peace. Lost in grief for opportunities missed, or chances not taken, or taken. Lost when life has not been good and life-giving. Lost in addiction, lost in abuse, lost in the need to succeed and possess, lost to heartache and forsakenness. I imagine that we have all been lost once or twice in our lives. And these sweet and challenging stories say you are worth the risk to be found. You are sought after. If you've wandered off, you are sought after. If life has happened to you without your agency, you are sought after by a God who shows up in unsuspected, unconventional ways and with a gesture of kindness, in a good therapist, in a dear friend, in someone who is willing to just sit with you in your lostness and surround you in love until you can feel it. God shows up, risking it all, every single time. Risking it all to show us that love is the way, and that love will not let you go. It is a love that seeks you out even when you're in the shadows. That light, unrelenting, seeks in the shadows and illuminates life. This love of God is relentless, compassionate, and persistent. And it's this kind of love that these stories talk about. Yes, they are sweet. Yes, they bring me back to my childhood. And some of you know that image all too well, right? But I want you to see that image again, or one like it that you've seen in your life, and know that that doesn't represent just sweetness and light. It represents love that will do anything to show you that more love, and only more love, is the way to salvation, the way to grace, the way to peace. And when one person, just one, doesn't take all of us, just takes one. When one person turns their life and reorients their life to the kingdom of God, to the relationships that are good and whole and life-giving, when one person feels a love that is deeper than any pit they have ever been in, God rejoices. And there is a celestial party. That celestial party is older than time itself almost. It does not stop. It does not rest. It seeks you out and holds you until you can feel found. Thanks be to God.